everybody. Welcome to the podcast. We're so excited today. We are here to talk about the summer box office, the hits, the flops. We're going to talk about it all. It's going to be really fun. I'm Rachel, and Conrado is here.
Whoop, whoop. I'm ready to talk.
Yes, it's been quite the summer, and yeah, we're here to talk about the box office. It's been really interesting, and it's been kind of we predicted some things correctly in our prediction, but other stuff I don't think anybody predicted right. So it's going to be interesting to talk about it. And yeah, so how do you feel about the summer as far as the movie season in general?
Okay, so we were just talking off mic that I've actually had a pretty busy summer, so I haven't seen as many movies as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, most of the big movies, and I think we mentioned this when we were doing our predictions back a months ago, didn't seem that exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the movies that ended up in the top 10 I haven't seen, and partially because they got bad reviews and partially because it just didn't seem interesting to me.
Yeah.
I've actually had a pretty disappointing movie year so far. We can get into that later, but most of the movies, there's been very few movies that I've truly loved and like truly, been into this year.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a year where I think you had to kind of work to find the gems. I don't know. I there's been some things that I've liked more than most people, but I don't know. It's been a weird year for the movies for me, and I think that that a lot of it, I feel kind of like, I personally, we'll talk about Avengers Endgame a little bit, but I personally feel almost like that movie was so well done, in my opinion, as far as a blockbuster, as far as the big thing, that it kind of sucked all the air out of the room. I don't know. Like, I just feel like nothing's able to be, only one movie, in my opinion, as far as a blockbuster, has been able to compare with it.
Yeah, box office wise, and in terms
Certainly.
of people going to see it, it just seems so huge that
Mm-hmm.
nothing, like you say, nothing's being able to compete. And I
Yeah.
just want to say a little caveat, like I said, that it's been a disappointing year for me so far, but like I said, I haven't seen nearly as many movies as I usually do,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been so busy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. And we didn't count Endgame in our list that we did. We talked about it, of course, in the preview, but because it was an April movie, we just kind of felt like we're going to start at the beginning of May. That's what Box Office Mojo does.
Mm-hmm.
And
They have some standards.
yeah. But like I said, I thought it was great. I saw it 3 times. I thought it was such a satisfying conclusion for this, 21 movie saga. And I really thought it was such a satisfying way for Iron Man and for Captain America to go out. I thought it was emotional. I thought it was epic. I absolutely loved, like, Avengers Assemble. That whole thing was amazing. I thought it was funny. I don't know, I just loved it. I thought it was incredible. And so I think that the Russos have just done such an incredible job with this whole series, with their part in the series. And I don't know, I loved it.
I kind of agree with you, surprisingly. I'm not a huge fan of those movies, but I gotta say, maybe not as enthusiastically as you, but I was surprised by how much I enjoyed that movie. And I was really surprised that they managed to make me feel like, having sat through all those movies, most of which I didn't love, was worth it somehow, Like, it almost made me wish that some of the other movies had been as better than they were, so that I could like go back and enjoy rewatching them, which I probably won't do. But yeah, but it was a big payoff that was actually more satisfying for me than getting there, which is, I guess, a big theme this summer, with Game of Thrones, which was such a disaster the final season.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting comparison.
Yeah. So that was really, really cool. And so, but let's talk about the top 10 of the summer box office. And then we'll talk about our lists at the same time and
Mm,
how they compared and how we did
how
as far as
wrong
our
we were.
predictions. Yes. So,
So,
all right. The number 10, and this
okay.
was a surprise as far as our lists, I think. It was Godzilla King of the Monsters, number 10.
Mm-hmm,
And this movie made domestic $110 million dollars,
mm-hmm,
and I hated it. I thought it was terrible. And granted, like monster movies typically aren't my thing. It kind of has to be really well done, and this was not. It was so was what was disappointing to me is that I didn't even feel like it had good spectacle. It was so cloudy and rainy. You couldn't see what was going on. It was edited
mm-hmm,
so badly. There was all this, they would just be going from this extreme close-ups to, so you couldn't actually get that awe and spectacle of, these two dinosaurs, basically these two monsters fighting each other,
yeah.
because the shot selection was so bad, and the
Mm,
plot was terrible, and you have all these great actors just trying to make something out of it, and I thought Kyle Chandler did a good job, but it was Vera Farmiga's part was terrible, and I just thought it was awful. I hated it,
mm,
and I have it in my ranking for the year uh, at uh, at 96 out of 100. So it was,
wow.
I
There we
really
go. Really.
really disliked it.
Oh,
And
good.
yeah, and I was watching it, and I thought, oh, this just feels like a Transformers movie.
Mm,
And I was not surprised at all when I came home and I saw that the cinematographer and the editor both worked on the Transformers movies. So
oh,
yeah.
okay.
Anyway, so it was
Um,
really bad.
yeah, I didn't see it. I saw only the sort of extended IMAX sort of trailer in
Yeah,
front of
preview.
Avengers. That was a bit of a preview, right? It was like a scene from the movie, basically.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if they changed any shots or if it's exactly how it's in the movie, but that seemed pretty badly done to me. Exactly
Yeah.
what you're saying. Like it was so dark and the rain, you couldn't see anything. The shots were moving all around. Like it was totally disorienting, and that wasn't building.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, I thought maybe this is just for a trailer thing, but it seems like it was for the actual movie based on what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, that was my opinion on it, that's for sure. So, yeah, it ended up at number 10. So that was a
Yeah,
uh pretty big loss for that I forget which studio it was, but it's a
yeah,
problem.
Warner Brothers.
Warner
But
Brothers.
where did you have it? I had it at number 8, so not
Yeah.
too distant, but I had it making 180, which it definitely is not going to go that high. It's at 110 now, and it probably won't make much more.
Yeah, I had it at 5 in
Yeah.
my predictions. So, yeah, it's an
Yeah.
interesting thing.
So,
Uh
so you and I think a lot of people thought it was going to be one of the big hits of the summer. So do you think it's just because it was so bad that it didn't do nearly as well as people thought, or do you think there's something else?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I think because Aladdin was so big that it kind of took some of that audience away from because Godzilla wasn't great, but also because people really enjoyed Aladdin. I think that that's part of it, but because I think they did a pretty good job marketing the movie, and
Mm,
that, which is kind of an interesting thing to talk about because it seems like marketing has become almost, it's, I guess, you every once in a while you have a movie like Deadpool that the marketing really is pretty brilliant and effective, but I don't know, sometimes it seems like that people are just going to see what they're going to see, and it almost is like, what's the point of spending all this money on the marketing? But I don't know, I felt like they did a pretty good job marketing the film. But I don't know, maybe people also were just kind of fatigued with big blockbuster. I don't know, but it's an
Okay.
interesting thing. I don't. I'm surprised it didn't do better
Yeah,
for sure.
I guess so. Yeah, I would have expected it to do at least a little better, but everything is underperforming this summer.
Yeah,
Even some of the Disney movies, but Disney is the only one who's surviving, and then there's like
yeah,
maybe a couple indies that have done a little well, given their budgets, but
right.
it's been mostly disappointing in the box office, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, at number 9 in the box office was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from Quentin Tarantino. So he had a pretty good
Right.
hit for himself. And this was one neither of us had on our list.
Yeah.
You
Was
had
it
it
maybe
as,
one of my dark horse, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And 'cause I think I was going off of the Hateful Eight, which was just underperformed,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why I didn't have it as a dark horse. But it turned out to be a pretty good little hit.
Yeah, maybe one of the few non-Disney movies that's actually done pretty well for itself.
Hmm.
Um, and kind of after the Hateful Eight, I agree it's a bit of a return for Tarantino to, like, not just box office success, but also sort of critical success. I think most critics really like it, and it seems like it's gonna play pretty well and try to go and get some Oscars and things like that.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah,
definitely a hit for
it
him.
made $114 million, and I actually saw it. It's only my second Tarantino film that I've seen, and because I'm trying now that I'm trying to become a full-time critic to see things that I wouldn't have seen before,
Hmm.
and I liked it fine. I thought the performances were really good and certainly looked really good, and it was interesting enough. I thought that Julia Butters, the little girl, I thought her part
She
was
was very
great.
charming.
Yeah, she's on American Housewife, which is such a good show. It's such a funny show. I love it. And so she did great. And overall, I enjoyed it. I did think that it had so much time spent driving and walking and and flying. And I'm just like, okay, we get it. You liked this car. You like Brad Pitt driving that car. Like, oh my gosh. But and the ending is really a lot, but I don't know, I thought it was so over the top that it didn't really personally bother me. I
Yeah,
thought it
you
it
mean the
was
violence?
yeah, it was so ridiculous. You got flamethrowers and stuff
Mhm.
that I don't know. I was fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a good time. I actually surprisingly wrote about it in my blog because I have a big theory about how it's really one of the very few Tarantino movies that's actually very personal about his life and feels like he's trying
Mhm.
to, wrestle with the fact that he's getting old and maybe being, left behind by the younger generations. He used to be such a like the cool hip filmmaker back when he started out, and now he's becoming a bit of an old guy and past his prime, some
Mhm.
people could say. um and I think he's trying to investigate that with the Leonardo DiCaprio character and Brad Pitt and these aging Hollywood figures. um
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. I agree with you. I think Leo and Brad Pitt are both giving great performances in the movie. I think they're some of the best work they've ever done.
Hmm. Yeah, they're really really good, and yeah, overall, I thought it was entertaining. Once upon a time in Hollywood, I have a 53 in my ranking. So then in eighth place, we had Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, and I enjoyed this. I thought it's very over the top, ridiculous, but I don't know. It's still fun. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it, and Vanessa Kirby was really good as Jason Statham's sister. She did a great job. And I think that The Rock and Jason Statham had nice chemistry, and it was a fun time at the movies. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again or anything like that, but
Hmm.
I had a good time watching it. I had it in my ranking predictions at number 7. I did it at a number 7.
Yeah, and I think I did too.
Oh
And it
yeah,
ended up at number 8, so not too shabby,
we're pretty
although.
close. Yeah, it got $133 million, which was maybe for this franchise was maybe a
It's
little,
slow.
yeah, a little bit slow.
It's
It's
definitely low for
uh,
the franchise, yeah.
yeah, it's total $438 million worldwide, and so it is even worldwide. It's not as well as the last Fast and Furious. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. If they because the next one will be back to the
To the
Fast
main.
and Furious 9 and kind of what they do. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's worth saying that the movie's still open and it'll probably make, a couple
Yeah,
millions more. Probably, my guess is it probably get to 150 or thereabouts.
I have Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw at 36 in my
Okay.
ranking. So there we go.
Out of how many movies have you seen so
100.
far?
I've seen 100 this
Oh,
year.
clean 100. That's nice.
100. Yeah, I know. At the as far as feature films, I've of
Mm-hmm.
course seen a lot more for TV when you include TV movies. But okay, so next up was Detective Pikachu, and this movie made $144 million, and we both had it higher. I had it, well, no, I had it at number 8,
Mm-hmm.
so I actually was
So
right
pretty
on.
close.
Yeah,
I
pretty close.
totally overshot with Detective Pikachu. I
Yeah,
thought because the trailer was looked so good, and because I could feel the excitement around the people, and the people around me, I thought that was gonna be like the surprise breakout hit of the summer, making like 400 million or something. Um, I think the movie just wasn't strong enough for most people.
hmm
I think I enjoyed the movie quite a bit. I think the effects are great and it looks good, and the Pikachu is a great, funny character. I just feel like it was like towards the end, maybe a little too much plot, a little too confusing, too much Pokemon lore. I don't know. It just didn't connect the way I thought it would.
yeah. I gave it fresh. It's a 66 in my ranking. I gave it fresh, but just barely fresh. I thought that the story wasn't great, and but I thought that yeah, it did look cool enough, and I thought that Pikachu was cute enough. Overall, I enjoyed it, but it yeah, the story I think could have been better.
I think it could have. I hope they do a sequel because I feel like they could do cool stuff in that world. And I
Yeah.
really did enjoy seeing all these Pokemon. Bulbasaur was my favorite. It's currently my favorite for best supporting actor of the year is Bulbasaur. Amazing. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
So
I hope they make some more because I think there's potential there.
I think so too. Yeah.
Do we know how it did internationally? Did it do better?
Let me see. So it made 287,000 foreign, total box office $431
Yeah,
million dollars.
not what I would have expected.
Yeah.
Pokemon is such a strong brand overseas that I am a little surprised it didn't do better. I would have expected it to.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so next up is The Secret Life of Pets 2. This is the one that I overshot in my predictions. I had it at number 2, just because of how strong the first one was, how good the Illumination is at usually marketing things, and also because I just figured people love their dogs and their cats. People would want to see it. And it what is so brilliant about Illumination is they almost guarantee success in every movie because their budgets are so small that it doesn't matter if something underperforms, they make a lot of money, and it's such a well-run company. I just amazing, because the budget for The Secret Life of Pets was $80 million. So even
Yeah.
though
Which
they
sounds like a lot, but it's not for an animated movie.
no, it's not. And so they, ended up they ended up with worldwide $401 million. So they still made a ton of money off of a movie that definitely underperformed and did way less than their previous, most of their previous. I mean, it's
Mhm.
down in there's one of their lowest of their films, and so I don't know. I think that's really impressive. I, I wish
I
that
mean,
I,
yeah,
I
but
wish that more studios were so well run, because I think that it would give us the ability to, I don't know, you'd be able to have more creative freedom sometimes, because they
Mhm.
wouldn't be tied to this like insane budgets.
Right. But my question then is, does Illumination show any of that creative freedom? Because I feel like their movies are not very risky in that sense.
No,
They're so focused on the economics part of it. I can't think of an Illumination movie that seems daring to me in any
no,
particular way, like in a sort of like a Spider-Verse, or even I
no.
don't know, some
Yeah,
other stuff. Even the Hotel Transylvania movies have been done some weird stuff.
right. Yeah, no, I agree. Even like Blue Sky Studios, I think they've taken way more risk as far as, I mean, I love the Peanuts movie, but even
Hmm.
movies like Epic, or that were artistically ambitious. And so it's true. But I don't know, it's just I feel like they should give classes on how to how, how to make money. Amazing. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I liked the movie. I thought it was cute. It's not like the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I thought it was cute. It felt like three episodes of a television show mixed
Hmm.
together, with like a thin kind of carryover between the three little plots, and I didn't have a problem with that. That was fine with me. I thought that two of the plots worked better than the third plot. My favorite was particularly this little dog Gidget that gets lessons on how to become a cat in order to save this toy, and it was cute in my opinion. And so I have it at 48 on my ranking
Hmm.
for the year. Okay, so next up in the box office was John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. So this was a pretty great hit for them. They have $170 million for Lionsgate. It was a pretty big hit.
Yeah. It was a really big hit for them, and surprising also. I would say the one of the few movies of the summer of that size that did not underperform but actually overperform in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And crazy that the third movie in a franchise is now, crossing into the 100 million with 170, based on a movie that it seemed back when it came out, the first John Wick, seemed like a throwaway Keanu Reeves like little thriller.
Hmm.
Now it's like all this whole big franchise that people are really into it, and because they actually really like the movies. I don't know, it feels like this weird thing
Hmm.
that almost never happens now, which is a franchise that was made into a franchise because people actually wanted it to be one, and not because the studio decided that it should be one.
Right,
Like nowadays we get so many like things that come ready to be franchises, and this is exactly the opposite. I feel like
right.
that's really exciting, even if I do enjoy the John Wick movies, but I have my issues with them too.
Hmm.
um
I didn't see this one because I hadn't seen the other two, and I just didn't have time to catch up. And so I'm gonna try to find time sometime this year, try to do it, but I don't know. Might not be till the next one comes out. Then I'll finally watch all four. I don't know. It was just it wasn't something that interests me for in the first and second, and I so that's why I hadn't seen them. But I need to, like I said, I've been trying to kind of catch up on things and see outside of my normal interests.
Hmm.
Since I'm trying to become an actual film critic, since I became on Rotten Tomatoes in January. So,
Yeah, you probably made the right choice not seeing it without having seen the previous two. I don't know how that would play out. It's since
yeah,
the movies have this really weird mythology and complicated stuff to them. Um,
right. So there we go. So John Wick Chapter 3. Okay. So number 4, we have Aladdin, which was a much bigger hit than I'm sure Disney thought that. I mean, I think they thought it was going to do well, but I don't think anybody saw this movie making over $1 billion worldwide. It was a huge hit, and I had it at number 6, and you had it at number 5.
yeah,
So yeah, it was a hard one to predict.
I think this is the movie that shows Disney's strength at the moment
Yeah.
at the box office. Just because on paper one would think an Aladdin movie would make $1 billion worldwide. It was just the trailers and the fact that it didn't look like it was going to be so good that had people worried about that. But it turns out that the brand and the power of the animated movie was strong enough for it to
Mm-hmm.
perform like it should have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was honestly 50-50 on it. I thought that Will Smith, when he was doing his not genie stuff, not blue genie, was actually quite charming in the role. I I thought that there was some funny parts there, and I actually liked all the casting. I thought was charming. I liked the guy who played Aladdin, Jasmine, uh, but I except for Jafar, I hated Jafar so much. But I just felt like they sapped a lot of the humor out of the rest of the stuff, and I kind of just wish they hadn't even done the original songs, because I didn't think those really worked that well. And it just felt like kind of a cruise ship version of Aladdin. Because even the Broadway musical, they replaced the Robin Williams jokes with like new jokes, like contemporary jokes, and so I thought that's what they were going to do, but then they didn't, and so it just kind of came off as sort of flat and
Hmm.
not funny. Like Friend and Me, which is so funny, didn't really, it wasn't funny, and Will Smith trying to sing Broadway just was not great,
But it's
and
what
yeah,
you're saying is so interesting because Disney has had such success on Broadway, not just with money, but also
yeah,
creatively with these musicals. And now that they're doing all these live action movies, they just refuse to bring anything from those Broadway shows that they
yeah.
know are
It's
successful.
weird. I
You know,
know.
same thing with Lion King. Like the Broadway show has these like great songs that people love from, that are not in the original movie, but they don't bring them to the new movie either, and that's just weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. They had a new song for Jasmine, uh, called "Speechless," written by Pasek and Paul, who I love their music, but it just felt so out of place,
Mm,
and it just didn't fit into them making um,
right.
Ashman music, Rice, music to me at all. It felt really, even though it's sung actually very well. She's a really good singer. So yeah, I didn't hate it. It's right in my cutoff as far as movies that I gave fresh to is Velvet Buzzsaw at 67. And that's I went fresh on it just barely. Uh, and I have Aladdin at 68. So I barely went
Oh,
rotten
okay.
on it. Barely.
I see. Oh,
Right.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I was 50-50 on it. I didn't hate watching it, but I couldn't in the end recommend it.
Fair enough.
Yep. So, all right. Then we have Spider Man Far From Home at 3. and this was, of course, technically a Sony release, but part of the MCU.
Mhm.
So it's kind of an interesting situation. It made $376 million and $1.1 billion worldwide.
Mhm.
And I personally didn't really care for it. I am in the minority on that. I had it 78 in my ranking. I I liked all the teenage stuff, but I personally didn't like Mysterio as a villain. His plan was very convoluted to me. It wasn't the way they tied in Tony. I didn't care for. I don't know. It just wasn't my favorite.
Mhm.
It would definitely be lower tier Marvel for me, MCU for me. And I thought it was certainly a step down from Spider-Verse, but I thought Homecoming was much better. But I know I'm in the minority on that. Did you get to see this one?
No, I didn't get to see it.
Mm,
Um, yeah, but it sounds kind of like how I felt about Homecoming, which is I like the teenage stuff, but not so much the superhero stuff.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Seems to be continuing that trend.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so well, like Homecoming though, I really liked the villain with Michael Keaton, but I don't know. I just it was just too there. I don't want to spoil it, but there was just too many aspects that I didn't care for. But
Hmm.
but yeah, I had it predicted at
Number
number 3.
three, which is
Yeah.
what it is. So well done. You
And
so far you're doing better than me technically because you
mm,
had both Spider-Man and Hobbs and Shaw in the right positions.
oh, true.
I only had Secret Life of Pets.
Yeah, and the only one that I have on my list that didn't end up making the top 10, I guess maybe we'll talk about that later, but was Rocket Man, but it was 11, so I was pretty close on that. So it was a pretty
Right.
healthy hit. So all right. Then we have Toy Story 4, and
Mm.
I was a little bit unsure. I had this at number 4 in my ranking. You had it at
I
number
had number
3.
three.
Yeah, so we're pretty close, I guess, on that. It ended up making $424 million domestic and 1 million, just over $1 billion worldwide. So
Yeah.
huge hit.
Yeah, 424. Not too far. I had it at 357, so it's not too far from what it
Mm-mm.
actually made. And I mean, it's still playing, so maybe it'll, get to 425, 426 or something, because
Yeah.
it's been out for a while. But yeah, this is a movie that I actually saw, unlike most of
Mm-hmm.
the movies on this
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I actually have it at number 1 right now for the year. I thought it was just
Oh,
so
wow.
great. I loved the ending that they gave for Woody. I felt like after I left, I felt like that Toy Story 3 to me was the perfect ending for Andy, but to me Toy Story 4 was the perfect ending for Woody. And there's the sort of this cycle of these toys getting played with and then getting forgotten and getting played with and getting forgotten. And I think you needed, for this character of Woody, you needed a way for him to be kind of, because these characters never die. Like they can be repaired, they can lose limbs, like they're sort of these weird sentient creatures when you really think about it. And you needed a place for him to end where he was not going to be in that cycle for the rest of his life. And I think it really ended up moving me, that ending. I thought it was great, and I thought it was so funny. I thought it was beautiful to look at. And I I don't know, just I loved Forky. I loved Woody being like Forky's dad, basically, and kind of keeping him from hurting himself like a parent will do. And I thought that was really good. And that's kind of his last gift to Bonnie and to kids. And I just loved it. I thought it was great. And
Mm,
so there we go.
yeah, right. I won't get too into it though, because for me it was a major disappointment, this movie. Um, I don't think it's at the level of the other Toy Stories at all. And and it also it just has this thing that it's become my big hurdle with Pixar over and over again, which is this just how packed the movies are with like, I don't know, it just feels exhausting to me to watch the Pixar movie nowadays. It just has so much plot, so much, all these effects are so realistic that I come out of the movie exhausted. It's like there's no, yeah, I don't know. I wish I like some movies with like a little downtime, with a little grace, with a little, I don't know, like a like a Miyazaki movie.
Let's see, I lost you. Are you there? Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but anyway, do you want to just start with what you had to say about Toy Story 4?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think I'm just gonna say I was just going off about what I didn't like about Toy Story 4, and Rachel lost her connection very
Yeah.
suspiciously. So seems like either the world is against me, bad talk, trash talk in Toy Story 4, or maybe Rachel's trying to pull some sort of con on me.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it's my least favorite of the Toy Story movies, and we'll leave it at that.
Okay. Fair enough. I do think that it had those moments of quiet and contemplation, and so yeah, I disagree. But clearly, obviously, I really enjoyed it. So we'll yeah, we'll leave it at that. Okay, so it did very well though at the box office. So way to go, that team.
Although, actually, I have a question about that. Do you think they feel it made almost what Toy Story 3 did, at least
Uh-huh.
domestically, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to be seen as a bit of a disappointment by Disney,
No, I
considering the
don't.
numbers from Incredibles and Finding Dory?
No, I don't see how in any world how making over $1 billion on your fourth movie of your franchise, how anybody sees that
I
as a
guess so. And it's
disappointment.
yeah, 1 billion. It's worldwide. It's pretty, yeah.
Yeah,
Can't argue with that.
and very highly critically praised. I mean, it's just a success on basically every way you can look at it. So I think they're thrilled with that. So so then we get to the number one. It's the king of the box office is the Lion King. And to be honest,
Mm.
I mean, obviously I knew it was going to be on top 10, but after I saw it and after I saw that I just felt like nobody in my life liked it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt whereas like in many people in my life really liked Aladdin. And so I don't know. I was kind of surprised that it, I thought, oh, this is going to open huge and then it's going to kind of not be as big after, but it was
Yeah.
still,
I
that
mean,
was not the case.
it's not as big as I thought it would be. For a while, I thought it was going to be huge, even bigger than Avengers Endgame, but that wasn't the condition that people were actually going to like it. And I think I agree with you that, I mean, my mom really liked it, but other than that, I haven't really heard anyone be super into the movie. Most people have been complaining about it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was not great. I thought it really is a shot for shot remake and it's just fundamentally flawed concept of having realistic looking animals singing and dancing and it just you don't have any emotional investment. You don't cry when you're supposed to cry. You don't uh it it's just I don't know. It was not very good. And I ended up having it at 81 in my ranking
Hmm.
uh, because that's more of a like sign that at least it did have some of that original stuff. And the visuals were really stunning. But I much prefer the Jungle Book, which, and it's interesting if you read that John Favreau, like he wasn't satisfied with how realistic, I guess, the visuals were in Jungle Book, and despite them being, winning an Oscar and everything, he wanted it to look more realistic, which was
Mm.
part of the problem because you can't have that. You can't have them doing all this unrealistic stuff if the point is to be realistic. So I don't know. It's frustrating, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a weird one for the top to box office, but there you go.
I guess, but it's not a weird one. I mean, we both had it at number one going into the
Yeah,
summer, thinking,
that's
and
true.
obviously it. it was expected to make a lot of money. It's just a weird case in which
Quality.
yeah, a movie that people don't really love apparently still makes a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. That was the box office. I already said that mine, the one that I had that didn't make the top 10 was Rocket Man. Uh,
Hmm.
what about you?
Oof, the ones that I had, talk about underperformers. One of them was Men in Black International, which is at number 12 outside the top 10, but only made 79 million.
Yeah, it was a big flop.
Um, yeah, and I think talking about marketing, I was actually kind of excited about it when I first heard it. Tessa Thompson, Chris Hemsworth, I like them both. I think they're really funny. I think they have good chemistry. Emma Thompson was going to be in a supporting role. It seemed like it was going to be a fun movie, but then that same trailer playing over and over again, and it was just so really unfunny that it made me not want to see it, and it ended up skipping it.
Yeah, I actually liked it. It wasn't the best, but I really disliked the other Men in Black sequels, and I thought it was fun. I watched it, and me and my friend had a good time, and I had it at 42
Well,
in
there you
my
go.
ranking. So I'm in a minority. I actually gave it fresh. I liked it, uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, it didn't. It was definitely way
Mhm.
underperformed. That's for sure.
Yeah, and they had that number 9, and my number 10 was probably the biggest underperformer of the year, Dark Phoenix, which
Hmm.
only made 65 million. And
Yeah.
um, it seems not totally fair fight because it seems like it was kind of dumped by Disney, right? They really didn't want anything to
Hmm.
do with that movie. Because they have their own plans, I guess, for the X-Men in the future. And this friend, this series was over before the movie even came out.
Yeah, and it is kind of lame because now they're using in some of their stockholder meetings and things like that, using its failure as a way to cut things from Fox and a way to. It's a little not my favorite,
Yeah. Well,
but
the whole Fox Disney thing, yeah, I don't know exactly what the plan is there, except
yeah,
to have all the things that Fox has already done in their library.
yeah, and so yeah, it was. People think they bought Fox in order to have them in the Marvel, in the MCU, to have the X-Men. That's not. They bought it for the streaming services, so they
Oh,
have the
definitely.
library for sure.
Yeah, no, there's no way if you just want to get the accent, there's no way you buy a whole studio
Yeah.
for.
Y-
It's too much trouble to go through that just
Yeah.
for the characters.
$78 billion. I mean,
Mhm.
so yeah, I have it at 88. It was really bad, in my opinion. It was very poorly done, and just even some of the character choices. I thought the performances. Jessica Chastain, she needs to find a new agent because she is just this. She was so bad in it, and I know she's a good actress, but whoo, it was not good, and everybody else was fine, but it was not good, and so I have it at 88, like I said. So
Well, there you go.
there we go. Um, all right, I wanted to quick talk about the international box office because that was fun we did last year, and we can't. There's no listing of the summer, so this is just for the year for the international box office.
Mhm.
So they have at number 10, and please excuse my terrible pronunciation of these Chinese
Mhm.
names, but it's Feng Quan De Hua Jing. And it's translated, I guess, means crazy alien, and
Very
it's
good.
it's a monkey trainer whose act goes wrong after an alien crash lands on Earth and injures his monkey. Desperate to perform the act, he attempts to train the alien instead, though but then he's punished after the alien regains his powers. So it sounds like a
Okay.
sci-fi film of
Sci-fi
some kind.
comedy, yeah.
Yeah.
Permanent.
So there you go. That's number 10. Then actually, How to Train Your Dragon: Hidden World. It's pretty
Oh wow.
big,
Okay.
yeah, worldwide hit there. So that's cool for DreamWorks. I liked that movie personally. So yeah, it number 9, and then And number 8, we have animated film, which I'm excited to hopefully see sometime. But it's Ne Jia Ji Mo Tong Jing Shi. And it's translated as Neza, the Birth of the Magic Boy.
Okay, it's a
And
Chinese animation.
Chinese, yeah, animation. And they've had some pretty healthy hits over there for China with animation in the last 2-3 years. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, so this is the translation I think is a little confusing, but it's read, the Primus extracts a mixed yon bead into a spirit bead and a demon bead. The spirit bead can be reincarnated in human to help King Zhao establish a new dynasty. The demon bead will create a devil and harm the humans. Neja is the one who should be a spirit bead hero, but he becomes a devil incarnate because the spirit bead and the demon bead is switched. So
Okay,
some kind
that's
of
like some Google Translate sort of thing going on there. But it seems to be like yeah, there's an evil spirit and a good spirit, and there's
yeah.
like guys fighting between them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And this kind of a demon, but it's also kind of the hero at the same time. Maybe kind of like a Hellboy kind of situation a little bit, maybe. I don't know. But it sounds intriguing. It sounds creative.
Yeah, it
So
sounds like a sort of epic from the pictures that I'm seeing online. Yeah, it looks like some sort of like epic adventure sort of thing.
yeah. So there you go at number 8. Number 7 is Toy Story 4.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6 is Aladdin.
Yeah.
And then number 5 is Lu Long Di Kui, which is The Wandering Earth, which I've actually seen. And
Yeah, me too, actually.
oh, you did?
Yeah, it's Netflix.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was over the top and crazy, and but there's still some heart there to me. I have it at 19 actually for the year.
Oh, okay, that's pretty high. I was not as into it as you were. It was strange. Maybe I wasn't in the right mind space, but it felt very bizarre to me to see like a foreign film trying to be a Hollywood blockbuster, right? Or trying to
Uh-huh.
translate the language of Hollywood, like American movies, into like a Chinese production. It felt strange. Like some of it felt original and some of it felt like it was trying to do American things, but it was, I don't know. It was a very
I
strange experience.
I just thought it had that spectacle and awe that you don't see that often done well uh, in a lot of Hollywood films, and yeah, I mean it's definitely like China literally saves the entire like galaxy, not
Yeah.
just not just the Earth. It
Well,
saves everything. But I don't know. I felt like it was sort of like a Michael Bay movie, but done more palatably to me, without the like
right,
racism
right.
and
Yeah, that,
sexism.
that seems about right. Yeah, yeah. That was also kind of interesting and funny in a way to see like a different government other than American,
Yeah,
like saving the world for a change.
yeah, right, yeah. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good, but yeah, that's interesting. I hopefully people are at least maybe watching on Netflix and getting a feel for the blockbusters of other cultures. That would be
Hmm.
cool. I think just to
Yeah.
be able to see it. So yeah. So then number 4 was Captain Marvel.
Hmm.
Number 3, Spider-Man.
Wow, Captain Marvel was this year, huh?
Yeah.
Oof. I just feel like it's been a long year already.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. I have Captain Marvel at 32 in my ranking.
Right.
Um and then I have How to Train Your Dragon World at 22 in my
Okay.
ranking. Yeah, since we talk about that. And then Spider-Man Far From Home is number
Okay.
3.
Mm-hmm.
Lion King at number 2,
Right.
and Avengers
And
Endgame at
of
number 1.
course, of
Yeah.
course.
So,
Well,
all
there we
right.
go.
Yes. So let's talk for a second about some hidden
So Disney's
gems.
also dominating the international box
Yeah.
office.
Hmm.
The only non-Disney, non-Chinese movie is How to Train Your Dragon, right? That I can see.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
and
mean,
Spider-Man,
technically
kind of.
Spider-Man is Sony. but yeah, that's not sort of affiliated with
Yeah.
Disney. Yeah, How to
Yeah.
Train Your Dragon. That's kind of crazy. So let's talk about some hidden gems real quick for the
All right.
summer. I actually had a lot. I loved the documentary Maiden, about the first all-female sailors in the race around the world. It was so well done. New footage, old footage, great interviews. I absolutely, it's my number 3 for the year.
Oh, good.
I love
Okay.
it. I love underdog sports movies, whether documentary or dramatized. It's just one, I just love it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I love Blinded by the Light. It's just now come out
Right. Yeah.
disappointingly, but hopefully people will go see it.
Oh,
Uh,
it's not doing well.
now it opened at now at just $4 million, which in 2,300 screens was
Oh, that's a lot of
disappointing.
screens. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it, but anyway, I have it at number 4. I love The
Yeah.
Farewell, which I have at 5.
Oh,
I
the farewell I really liked. I saw
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And that is also, talking about Blinded by the Light, and like indie movies have also been disappointing, relative to expectations this
Yeah.
year for the most part. I remember there was a whole thing about Booksmart doing really badly at the box office,
Oh,
and
right, yeah.
but the Farewell is actually one that's done pretty well for itself so far.
Mhm.
It's got great per screen average, and it's doing modest and on the big picture because it's a smaller movie, but it's doing what the numbers that are expected for it to do. So that's pretty good.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's a good movie.
Yeah, I especially I do think it has some pacing problems, but on the watching it again, I liked it even more the second time just because of my life experience since I first saw it at Sundance. Both my
Mm,
grandmas have died, so it definitely hit home big time when I watched it in July. Uh,
right.
so, uh,
Yeah.
and then the movie Shadow was a great
Oh yeah,
film.
that's
Uh,
a Zhang Yimou, right?
mhm.
Chinese movie. Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard that was good.
absolutely stunning cinematography, incredible. I love martial arts movies, incredible fight sequences. It was done in like very monochromatic style. And so the blood was like bright red. It seemed even the more red. And it was really stunning to look at. And I actually thought the story was quite good. They did a love triangle that I actually felt for. Sometimes it could be a little confusing at parts, uh, but I think on a second watch, that confusion would go away. Just with the trying to keep track of everything with subtitles and everything. Sometimes it takes me a
Mhm.
couple times. But I've had a 7. It's one of my favorites of the year.
Oh, okay.
It's really good. Uh, and then another one that I loved is Wild Rose. This is a movie about a girl from Glasgow who wants to be a country singer. And the lead performance, Jessie Buckley, is incredible. The songs were so good. And I think that Julie Walters was probably my favorite performance of the whole year as her mother. She
Oh
was
wow,
she was
okay.
she was so good. And it's fairly predictable as far as the story, but it was so well done, and I loved it. I have it at 8
Okay.
of the year. And just a few others I'll just list off. I loved Always Be My Maybe on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. Keanu's really hilarious in
Oh,
that movie.
so funny. I loved the ending was perfect. I absolutely loved his ending speech to her. It was so good. And, I love rom-coms.
Hmm.
So that's number 10 for me, my ranking. I loved a little indie movie called American Woman with Sienna Miller. I feel
Oh,
like Hollywood has a really hard time portraying working class women as anything but just sort of damaged. But this was a pretty nuanced portrayal of this woman over many years of her life, and she faces tragedy and and also good moments. It's got Aaron Paul playing her husband, who's great. Christina Hendricks is really good. I just it's definitely a little hidden gem in my opinion. I have it at 12. And then the Peanut Butter Falcon. I got to interview the director and the producer. This was a very sweet movie kind of goes back to sort of a Huckleberry Finn kind of a feel about this Shia LaBeouf and this kid with Down syndrome go on this sort of journey, this road trip together. It was really sweet. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I have it at 13. And then Late Night, I really liked. It didn't do well at the box office. That was a big flop.
That's another one that didn't do well. But I also saw that, and I liked it quite a bit too.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was funny. I thought it was sweet. I thought the performance is really good. I have it at 15. And then finally, my last choice was the Creature Scares movie Crawl, which was so much fun. It knew exactly what it was trying to be, in my opinion, and I thought it executed it really well. It was really tight. They executed. I thought both of the lead performances were good. And I just really enjoyed fighting those gators.
Oh man, that's the movie that I the most wanted to see that I couldn't. I just
Uh-huh.
was so busy when it was playing, and I didn't get around to it. But I really wanted to see Crawl. That
Yeah.
looked really fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. I have it at 17 for my ranking. So there you go. That's some of the
Great.
prizes. Did you have any others that you got to see that
Um,
were surprising?
I gotta say, not very few movies that I mean, there's a bunch of movies that I really liked this year. Very few of them came out in the summer, and the ones that I did, you've already mentioned. I mean, I really liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I wouldn't call that a hidden gem. Um, I guess The Farewell is probably the one movie I saw this summer that I like the most, other than Hollywood. I thought that was really touching and really well acted and very uh, unexpected, and some of the things that he wanted to say, and so I really enjoyed that movie. It feels very interesting. I'm really looking forward to what the director Lulu Wang. This is her second movie, and I know she's already planning a third. Um, and I'm looking forward to see what she does.
Yeah, me too. Definitely for sure. It shows a ton of potential, and Aquafina did such a great job.
Fina's
I
great, and the actress, I don't know how to pronounce her name. I think it's Zhao Zhuzhen, who plays Nai Nai, the
mhm.
grandmother.
It was
She
really
was
good.
so good. She's probably my favorite supporting actress this year, um,
Hmm.
so far. She was so good.
Yeah. Did you get to see Rocket Man?
I did, and that was okay. I enjoyed the first half of it better than the second, I have to say. Although
Uh-huh.
it was pretty fun. I just think
Yeah.
it was like a little long. And the thing with these musical biopics, even this one that was doing something very original and unexpected with the musical numbers, is that the plot is always the same. You know, the guy, it starts out as a prodigy, then they get famous, then they get to drugs and have their rock bottom, and then they come out of it. It happens in
Yeah.
every one of them, and you just can't. It's really
Uh-huh.
hard to fight that.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but I don't know, I was just so dazzled by it. I thought it was so creative and so and had such heart to it, and
Yeah, very
uh,
creative, and very nice musical numbers. I
yeah.
think very fun, especially towards the
So,
beginning. Yeah.
yeah, I actually have it at 6. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really just breath of fresh air in a genre that can be very stale. I agree. So, there you go. That's kind of the summer. So, let us know what you thought of the box office hits, but also if you have any hidden gems that you enjoyed, let us know in the comment section or on Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And
Cool.
so, Conrado, where can people find you?
Right. People can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Coco Hits New York. And
Great.
that's probably the best place to find me. You can go to my blog, letterbox, etc. from there.
Great. Yes, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes and YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out, and consider becoming a patron to the channel. We have our patron Facebook group, which is a lot of fun, and we'd really appreciate it. All the information is in the description below. So check that out, and we'll get together and talk again soon.